Hi, I'm Dixon Jones, and this is SEO in 2023.
Dixon, what is your number one SEO tip for 2023?
So I don't know if this is number one, but I thought I'd go, crystal ball gazing. And my logic is that I've started to see quite a lot more virtual reality, augmented reality kind of apps and things around. And so I think my tip for 2023 is start thinking about how you might optimize for augmented reality, which is no doubt going to give me more questions than I've given you answers.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what people would define as augmented reality to begin with, because I remember playing Pokemon Go a couple of years ago. Is that augmented reality?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, that is augmented reality, but not particularly good for SEO. Although I'm sure you could have gone to Pokemon and got a special Pokemon-sponsored, majestic Pokemon running around. That might be a way to optimize for Pokemon. But augmented reality is really using a device, whether it's a pair of glasses or whether it's your phone. At the moment, it's more likely to be your phone, to look at a location literally through the camera lens and then having more information literally augmented onto that, whether it's, a Pokemon Go, or my brother-in-law does some stuff down at the Eden project where, you can put something, look at a plant and it will tell you the characteristics of the plant and that kind of thing. Now that's clearly programmed. So he obviously has to build all of that stuff specifically
like
into
Google
an
Lens.
app. Yeah, but Google Lens, of course, is coming up with huge amounts of new information about ideas and things that you're looking at, and they're not going to be relying on you using an app necessarily. You're going to have a Google Lens or a Google Glass or an Apple phone or whatever, and you're going to be looking at something, and you're going to want to be able to get more about it. So, for example, you get yourself, you're going past Wembley Stadium, and then you start to, you say, well, I wonder what's going to be on at Wembley Stadium next week, and using augmented reality, you can just point your camera at Wembley Stadium, and it will come up with maybe the schedules of what's coming and what events are coming on in the future. These kind of ideas, and I think that very much is an SEO thing for us to think about, and we don't have to go too many miles off of our natural world to be able to do that. So we can do some one very specific piece of SEO now that I think will have an effect when augmented reality becomes more the norm than it is today, and that's location schema. So we use location schema, or some people use location schema just to sort of point out where you are and things, but there's a lot of things that can go into a location schema that we could be using for certain types of businesses. Obviously, if you're a virtual business like Majestic or Inlinks, is not quite so appropriate. But if you're a restaurant, for example, then absolutely there's something that you can do there, because there is there's the location property in schema, and then a sub property of that is food establishment, for example. So you can then give a search engine a lot more information about your food exchange, your food, your types of food and that kind of thing. But then also connected to that is exactly where you are. So that would allow a augmented reality system to piece together the location, the restaurant itself, and the kind of food it serves, or when it's going to have a food festival, or when a sports event is going to be on. So I think there's a huge amount that could be done, and augmented reality could then, soak up that schema and really use it within its Google Lens, as you called it. But it wouldn't necessarily just be Google Lens, because I reckon there's stuff coming out. I mean, is it Oculus have been talking about on their webpage. So Oculus is that big headset, and you're in a virtual world. So it's more virtual reality than augmented reality. But they've got talk of Ray-Ban doing a deal with Ray-Ban all on their website, for example. Now that suggests to me that there's going to be a Ray-Bans coming out that will have, some kind of augmented reality within a pair of glasses. And if it's not Ray-Ban, it's going to be one of the other, proper, glasses manufacturers, or just Google Glass, because they've been talking about coming out with a new version of Google Glass as well. So I think whilst I've gone for something that's pie in the sky, I think there's some real things that we can do as SEOs now.
Yeah, obviously you're talking about MetaQuest there, which is part of the company by Oculus, owned by Meta now. I think what I really take from what you're saying there is there are going to be new technologies come down the line in the future, and what you need to make sure is that your website is marked up in a way that makes it very easy for search engines, discovery bots, whatever they are, to discover and determine exactly what it is you are, what it is you do, and make them confident that they should be including your data within whatever consumers actually find out content on their devices.
Yeah, and it's not just your website; it's the elements within your website as well. So your photographs, your videos, whatever they may be. I think or your recipes, or all sorts of things. There are so many types of schema out there that are built out to help different industries define different things about themselves, with the view to some machine somewhere using that in some kind of database to help filter through any particular industry or any particular product or any particular type of video or any particular thing. And I think that we haven't even scratched the surface of schema. I think there's a lot of things coming on that are trying to automate your schema for you. And that's absolutely fine. But those things are not necessarily thinking about tomorrow's technologies. What they tend to do, if they're automated, is do the easy stuff. So who wrote this piece of content, or what's the organization that owns the intellectual property for this website? These kind of things that can propagate across the whole website. Video schema is completely useless unless you've got a video on the page. It also turns out to be useless if you've got two videos on the page, because it doesn't. It's not clear which video you're applying that schema to. So understanding the schema is all a bit murky for SEOs sometimes. But I think digging in and thinking about a few things can get you a long way. And it certainly isn't going to do you any harm, as long as, and this is the big thing that people seem to go wrong with. I've seen people trying to use schema as schema stuffing, sort of as a new kind of keyword stuffing. So I've been sitting there and saying, right, this page is about China and England and Wales and Scotland and and all these things, and it's also about travel, and it's about planes and airfares and prices and things. Nothing is about all these things. So you need to be laser targeted if you're going to benefit, because it's not always going to be people going to google.com to find this information. It could well be Google, somebody holding up an Android phone, pointing it at your shop and wondering what the reviews are. And that's already there. So you can point a phone at a shop, have a look at it, pick up the reviews, but that'll be embedded more into augmented reality for sure. And on top of that, you can, think about that kind of stuff and start to use, potentially promotions within schema if you're careful. But I would say, what you can do is help a user really decide what they want to do, where they want to go, and make sure that the right customers come into your establishment. Not necessarily more customers.
Is there ever a commercial website that doesn't have to have schema, or should there be schema on every single commercial website?
No website has to have schema. I think this is, no.
But would it assist every website?
Some basic things assist every website, although a search engine is able to glean some of the things just naturally. So I don't think that saying your website is about about I don't know, airfares, it doesn't necessarily make your website more about airfares than the next website. It just clarifies, that information. But if you're starting to really talk about things in a location-based setting, you're the only Chinese takeaway around the corner. So, as somebody's looking around at a bunch of restaurants and they want Chinese, they can just, potentially just wander their camera, look at their camera around and see which one. Or if they want to, have a look at, what's on at the theater, it saves them having to go and have a look at an old poster that's 2 months out of date because you didn't change the poster outside, because you've got the schedule of events built into the schema, and that they don't, you save on on postage, on posters and printing. They save on the time it takes to find that information, and they very quickly decide whether they want to go and see the show or not. I think there's a lot to be said for thinking about how augmented reality is going to propagate, and then anyway thinking about the schema that will help things like augmented reality to clarify your business. I mean, I heard that Google My Business is going away, for example, and I think that's in a way sad, but in another way, all of that information can be embedded straight into your schema anyway. So they don't necessarily need a separate Google My Business sort of portal, if you like, if you properly use schema. And that would certainly be something that would then get embedded into a lens when somebody is looking at your establishment.
Is schema a set it and forget it thing, or is it something that you need to check every quarter or so just to see if there are any new schemas that have become available?
Well, it depends very much on the schema that you're using. If you're talking about products and pricing, for example, it's a product schema, it's got the pricing of your product in there. As soon as your product changes, your pricing should change as your pricing changes, your schema should change to reflect that. It's the same schema, but just different variables in there. Same with events, of course. What's on tomorrow changes every day. So some things, it's not so much that the underlying schema changes, but the actual data it needs to be populated with may need to be much more dynamic as you move forward. There are other schemas that are, going to be much more static, the name of your organization, your registered address, those kind of things, personal names, those things don't necessarily change. They do over a long period of time, but not over a short period of time. Yes, there is schema is a very living. Schema.org is a very living kind of document. It's also open, so there's loads and loads of people editing the schema and coming up with new types of schema. Sometimes pretty weird and wacky stuff that is going to take some time to be recognized by a large search engine. But other stuff is very obvious and ubiquitous. And so just going through and using what you can, I think is a valuable thing to do. And there's tools to do that. Schema app is one. There's WP Schema, I think, is out there. There's other things that will do it to help you sort of WYSIWYG it, if you like. But I think what is happening at the moment is SEOs are really just doing, schema, set it up for the homepage of your website. That'll be fine. Off you go. Or it's on every single page because every single page is about the same thing and owned by the same company. And I think that's I'm not saying don't do that, but I think that's really just hitting, it's just a big mallet to hit in a very finely tuned pin, really. And each page could be crafted in the same way that people craft content. You could be crafting the schema around that as well.
So you've shared what SEO should be doing in 2023 in order to plan to have their web pages better positioned for future years as well. But let's now talk about what SEOs shouldn't be doing. So this could be anything SEO related, not necessarily schema, not necessarily augmented reality, but what's something that's seductive in terms of time, but ultimately counterproductive, something that SEOs shouldn't be doing in 2023?
Well, a pet favorite of mine, and that's partly because of my, some of the hats I wear is that people shouldn't be just trying to get more visitors particularly around a keyword. So I think soon, come 2023, hopefully, if my world is ever foretold, people will stop using keyword search query volume to try and work out their keyword marketing strategy, because the number of people that type in a particular keyword often doesn't bear any relation to the number of people that are specifically interested in buying your product. And I use on presentations the example of, horseshoes. Most of the time when somebody types in a horseshoe, they're actually looking for a pub called the Horseshoe, or Horseshoe Falls, or a place with the word horseshoe in it. Very few are actually, looking for a farrier. And so there is a massive, contextual difference between, people, the number of people that type in the word horseshoe and the number of people that are looking to make a horseshoe for a horse. In fact, they're, according to the knowledge graph, more likely to be looking for the game horseshoes, which is throwing 3 horseshoes in a sort of dart-like game against a pole. So this idea of using keyword research to plan your keyword strategy without context is a problem. SEOs have been using things like saying that user intent is all about things like whether a website is transactional, navigational, commercial, or a few 4 or 5 ideas. But it's not. Unless you've got the verb that somebody's typed in, you haven't got any kind of idea. If somebody types in house, it's very different. Their intent is very different if they're typing buy a house than if they decorate a house, or if they look at a house, or if they sell a house. These are all extremely different ideas, and they could well be typing in looking for a mortgage, which is also very, very semantically close to looking for something about a house. But they're very, very different ideas, and I think that we need to get away from just getting a list of keywords and the search volume last month in a country of your choice, but probably not necessarily the country that you're actually operating in, and then using that to plan your world. Life has got to be a little bit more about answering the full query of the user.
Much food for thought. Dixon Jones is CEO of Inlinks and a brand ambassador for Majestic, and you can find him over at dixonjones.com. Dixon, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2023.
Thank you.
Get your copy of SEO in 2023, the book, over at SEOin2023.com.